Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you are well and enjoying this very, very sunny day. Today I'm going to be talking about our Digital ACE program and give you a bit of an overview. We're very grateful to UFI Tech Trust, who is funding us for this project, and we've been busy all summer, and that's what we're going to tell you about. So first of all, a bit of housekeeping from Charlie.
Morning, everyone. Afternoon, even, everybody. So we've got a housekeeping slide here. I think the main thing is if you've got any burning issues, you can drop me an email on charlie.mckenna@holex.org.uk, and I can sort them out. But if you can hear us but you can't see the presentation, possibly look out for a daisy symbol at the bottom. If you can't see a menu pane, look out for a little menu with an orange arrow and click it. And if you're having issues hearing, you may not be able to hear this advice, but you can switch to dial in via a phone call. And if anyone's like to pop questions across, then if you've clicked your orange arrow, you should be able to see a question pane. So if you send questions across, I'll keep an eye on those whilst Sue's talking.
Okay, sorry. So what's the project about? I think it was, well, I know it was, we were back in March thinking the world was all right, and then COVID-19 started and you were asked to close your centres and move online if you could. Now, some of you were well on that technological journey, but others hadn't started. And I think you've been absolutely amazing what you managed to do in the first 5 months of lockdown. However, I know that many of you were asking, was there more support? And what I need to say right at the beginning, I'm still trying to make sure that government at some stage, DfE particularly, or the mayoral combined authorities, create some sort of emergency digital fund for you. So they've managed to fund colleges, they've put some money into schools, probably not enough, but really they haven't created a fund for you. But saying that, some of the mayoral combined authorities and the Greater London Authority they've created some digital pots that you can bid into. And I know some of the bidding is a bit difficult, but it's a really good start. And we need to take any chance that we've got to applaud what the MCAs have done, because they are setting an example for DfE. So the idea of this project is to help you wherever stage you're at. So if you're a non-starter, to say to you, well, this is how you can start on your technological journey, your staff and your students. But also, if you're doing already really well and you've got, and I know some services have already, and centres have already got, 1,000 courses online, and they're offering the whole range of activity. Well, I'm still hoping that there's something from you for you in this particular project. It's been an interesting one because we've had to work, all of us have had to work remotely, and we set it up in a way that we could involve as many people as possible, which I'll come to in a minute. Now, the purpose of the webinar is to explain the programme, but also is to ensure you know how to get access to it. And then I don't want to stop with this programme. I want to go on to do more and make sure that DfE and the MCAs are understanding what you need in the form of support. So the last slide is to say, things that you've already told me, things that we've thought about ourselves, but also to give you a chance. And you may not want to do it on this particular, through questions, but you may want to drop me or Charlie a line and say, these are the things that we really want. So that's the purpose of the webinar. Now, first of all, I want to do a bit of a poll. We always do one of these. I'm assuming that most of you now are in the position of offering something online. But there may be a few services out there that had already commissioned out their work and weren't in the position to do that. So just on this poll, I think there's about 60 to 70 of you already on the call. Could you tell us whether your service, college or centre is a non-starter, you don't offer anything, you've got a limited online offer, you've expanded your offer through lockdown, you have a mixed offer, in other words, you've opened your centres and you're offering online, or you have completely moved to online. If you could do that now, that would be brilliant. So you just tick one. You've got a little poll slide and you just tick one of those.
Yeah, we've had 86%, 89% of people voted. That's a fantastic result. Thank you, everybody.
That's good.
So, right, I'm going to close it now. 91% of you have voted. And I think you should be able to see the results of this shared now. So fortunately, nobody said they're a non-starter and don't have any online learning. 16% limited online learning offer. Most of you at 48% are saying you've got a mixed offer. 7% of you have moved completely online, which is pretty awesome. And 29% of you have expanded your offer through the lockdown.
Well, that's brilliant, and that gives us a really good feel about it. So back in April, I think it was April, May, the first stage of the project was to do a survey of existing practice. And that survey had three purposes. One was to become the baseline survey for this particular project. Two, to give us the ability to see what particular technological devices, tools, systems you were already using. And three, to pick up what you thought were the priorities for us running a particular, like a development program. The other thing that we did was DFE was trying to get a baseline as well. So we actually put into our survey some of DFE's questions and survey questions, which has proved very useful. And they've been, I think, quite good at actually highlighting some of your good practice over the last couple of months. And I know the ministers actually said several times in public, that adult education has been leading the way on this, which is really, really fantastic. However, I know now that you've got new issues coming up. For instance, have your existing learners who were like second year learners returned for this year? Or are they a bit reluctant to return to a centre? Have you got new types of learners? Have you got people who are worried about being made unemployed when the furlough scheme comes to an end in a few weeks' time? What type of client are you having to cope with now? So, and also, some of you, I think, have moved online, are comfortable online. You've seemed to got a good student base. And therefore, although I'm sure you will do some face-to-face work, you also see that there's an opportunity to do more online that maybe that you thought about next year. And DFE is also keen to see what movement there's been. So again, we'll be doing a second survey in late October, not as many questions this time, but to get a feel and also get a feel about the student uptake. And about whether there has been lost learning and lost students, and what online can do to rectify that, or what it can't do. So that would be quite an interesting last stage of this particular project. Now, what's in the project? Well, we've been busy all summer. So there's been five strand leaders. So we advertised back earlier in the year asking for you as service heads, principals, centre leaders to come forward and actually run one of these strands for us. Now, these strands were identified from what you said in that original survey. So each person took a strand, and then building on that strand, they asked for a group of people to work with them. So each strand has had between 10 and 15 people active, helping the strand leader develop the guidance material for these particular topics. So the first one is digital policy. Many of you have said that you did what you did, but you didn't have really a policy or strategy behind it. It was actually, you were doing what was needed because of where we were in time, and that's fine. But at some stage, you'll need to draw all the different bits and pieces you were doing and put it into a policy. Then the second thing is about safeguarding. There's a lot of concern about safeguarding, as there should be. And again, we built that safeguarding strand up with a group of practitioners. So it should be giving you the practical advice that you will need. And then a big strand, and Caroline will talk about this in a bit more in a minute, is about developing materials. Because there's so much stuff out there. everything from DFE doing their skills toolkit, which is just a signposting website, to the Open University doing their basic skills materials, the BBC doing their bite size, to the school Oak service. And then there's a lot of commercial material out there. There's some of it's free, but some of it, when you go through it, you'll find that they're actually charging. So in that strand, they've looked at materials and what is available and what is useful for our adult education students. And what I should say all the way through this, there's a lot of work already been done by ETF, by JISC, by others in this area, but a lot of it is FE and HE. What we've tried to do with these guidance materials, they're all about what's relevant for the adult education practitioner or the adult education service leader, and that's really important to us because where we go in the future, there is still going to be a big space for dealing with those who are looking for second chance education, looking for basic skills, might not have the technologically and underpinning skills that they need to to go forward on a level 2 online. There's a whole set of our learners out there that will need your type of education to bring them on, and I think that's really important. So the fourth strand is about quality assurance. How do you know what you're doing is good? I looked at many classes now that you were delivering online, and to be honest, I haven't seen something that I thought, that's not that good. I think you have managed to carry forward the good practice that you've done in the classroom online, but we need to be assured of that, and we need to make sure that using Ofsted's terminology of impact and implementation, we need to make sure that that we can demonstrate this online work is as good, if not better, than what you've been doing in centres. And then number 5 is the underpinning technological solutions. This is all about the type of equipment that you need and devices and connectivity and service level agreements is a bit of the underpinning work that needs to take part. And then one of the issues that you brought up in the survey was how to deal with those learners that've got low skill, and we thought that was important in itself to have a whole strand work on that, and therefore we feel between these 6 strands that we not only cover absolutely everything, but there should be something for somebody. So can I bring in Sarah now to talk about number 6?
Hi. Yes, so I was leading the group looking at the learners with low-level skills and how we engage them. So obviously a lot of additional barriers for people operating at pre-entry level, but also people who had low digital skills and people who just lacked the confidence to get online. So it has been a big issue across lots of services. But what we've done within our group, we collected examples of how people were addressing these problems, the different types of things people were practicing and working on, the different materials they've been using, and lots of successes. So it's really encouraging to see the whole range of different learners that had been able to engage with their online learning. So within the guidance, we'll be looking at that, how to increase confidence, how to be more flexible, what kind of support to give people, and some examples of the types of materials and courses that people have run as well.
Brilliant, Sarah. And Caroline, do you want to talk about yours?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I have to say I was supported by a wonderful working group of really knowledgeable, proactive and very helpful people. We have considered the development, adaptation and use of resources for online learning and tried to give some clear guidance about how you might proceed further with it. It's very, very wide, so we have to acknowledge that we can't possibly include everything. So we've started off with suppose, what you might call the less exciting, less interesting bits, but the bits that will get you into trouble if you don't do them. So things like the technical and legal considerations around copyright, general data protection regulations and accessibility. But then moved into things like the models for online and blended learning, how you might, for example, use flipped learning in your programs. And then within that, looked at a range of things such as making effective use of video online, right from understanding the quality of the content is more important than the quality of the video, that you don't need to have expensive kit to get started, how you might create a YouTube channel, and how to make them effective. We've looked at things like collaborative tools and providing links to a range of those for you to try with learners. And we've looked at things like feedback and feed forward and how you can do that effectively online, as well as things like video conferencing, how you use that well, how you might encourage people. Most importantly, though, I think if I wanted people to take one thing from it, it would be that the learners and the staff are on a journey, that it is absolutely okay for them to feel scared, terrified, worried, and lacking confidence, and that there is some thinking about how you might help to build their digital knowledge and skills and their confidence, and providing things like helplines to support them and so on. And we've also provided you with some links to online courses for teaching online and some case studies that colleagues have generously provided and resources that they've been willing to share with you. So hopefully you'll find it useful.
Thanks, Caroline. And then on the others, just to say a little bit more on quality assurance. What we made sure there is that we have been talking to Ofsted, and Ofsted did a project earlier in the summer looking at online learning in colleges, and there is some learning that we've been able to take from that. And we've also shared the final document now with Ofsted. So we're expecting, I wouldn't call it an endorsement, they don't quite do that, but we know that we're going to be in line with what they would like to see when they come out to do inspections. The documentation itself, like Caroline said, each one was developed with a group of HOLEX members. We're giving our strand leaders now because a new title of digital advisors, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But each of the documents, as Caroline says, includes good practice, signposting, relevant materials, and people have been really generous with their own policies, and whether it be on safeguarding or whether it be on online induction or even brilliant online award ceremonies where they've managed to give out certificates online. So people have been able to share that, and we've done it in such a way, I'm saying we've nearly done it in such a way that you will be able to adapt and adopt that material for your own service. That's how generous people have been. So when you get these materials, I think you'll be really pleased. They're going to be really helpful for you. And the other thing that we've made sure we've done is that UFI itself, Trust, has done some brilliant activities and resources, maybe slightly in other sectors, but where we can, we've taken and adapted that. The same work, the same thing as ETF. We've taken ETF material and tailored it for adult learning and the sort of structural landscape you work in. Because what's been not exactly wrong, but the materials that the FE World has had before has normally been written in the context of you delivering it within a college setting and not in a community setting. So that's the guidance documents, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a series of webinars now, one on each document, and we'll release the materials when we have the webinar. So otherwise, it'd be so much material you wouldn't be able to cope with it in your inbox. I'm going to stop there for a second. Charlie, have we had any questions?
No, we don't have.
You've been really good today. This is the first webinar I've done now in like 2 years where you haven't sent me any questions in advance. But if you have got questions, probably the best for this particular webinar, because it really is only giving you information, is that you email me or Charlie. It's really actually quicker to do it by email than trying to put them on this system. So
sorry, Sue, one literally came in as I said no. Vicky Tracer said, when will the guidance be available? That's an easy one for you.
It is an easy one. So if I go on to the next slide, like I said, there will be a series of webinars on each of the topics, and the guidance will be available at the end of the webinar. Today is the launch event, which is the 15th of September. Next week, we've got developing an overarching policy for you to join. And the week after, safeguarding, developing materials, quality assurance, supporting the low-skilled learner, then underpinning technology. And the materials will be available after each one of those sessions. So time we get to November, you will have the whole set of 6. We're also looking, we'll send them to you, but we're also looking for a place for us to house them. It'll probably be on the HOLEX website, but we might need to create something else as well, because there is a lot of material here. And also going forward in the new year, we're looking to build on it. You know, people have been generous with their materials now, but it would be good if we could find a way to continue to share. And that's something as part of the project we need to look at. So that's the dates for the diary. They will be recorded and you will be able to watch them afterwards. But what we are learning ourselves through, online delivery, is always best when we do them live. And people always say they're going to look at them afterwards, and they very rarely do. So we do encourage people to be, for these webinars, to watch them live and to send questions in advance so that they can be more interactive. And each webinar will be made up of the strand leader, the digital advisor, and some practitioners from either the working group or some people that we know have done really well in that particular topic, and therefore can support the strand leader to the webinar. So even I'm looking forward to these. Having read most of the material now, I still think I've got something to learn. What we need to do, as I said, is that this is not going to cover absolutely everything. I think it's a really good stab, but there are going to be other things, and we need to think, what do we do when the UFI funds come to an end, and how we manage to keep the momentum we've got now going forward into the new year. So, and then we've got another part of the project is those overview webinars are going to be really helpful, and the materials are going to be really helpful. But we really got a feeling, and many of you said this, that I wouldn't call it old-fashioned training, right? It's going to be state-of-the-art modern training, but we want to offer a whole set of training for people between October and January. So at a time for you to book, topics for you to book, we're going to run around 40 sessions. These will cover everything from getting online for your member of staff, for the first time ever, done in a safe place, to looking at, how to write a delivery strategy, to how to do assessment, how to offer a safe environment for your students. So these will be 1.5 hours long. There will be a break in them. There will be a trainer who will then work with people who are online. And I'm hoping that each of the sessions will be quite proactive and feel more like a training session than what I'm sort of doing now, which is just imparting information. And we'll be sending a prospectus out. That sounds good, doesn't it? So it's going to be called the Digital ACE Professional Development Prospectus, and it'll have 40 sessions. It'll have the trainer, who's going to be the trainer. It'll have information how you log on and the time the session is going to be on. It's all going to be free. We're not going to be charging, but this is new for HOLEX. We've never really run. It's like having a mini college. I was saying to the strand leaders the other week, the last time I wrote a prospectus was actually 20 years ago when I was in Canterbury. But this is only a mini prospectus. It's nothing like the ones that you do where you've got 1,000 courses on offer. We've only got 40. However, it is new and we are quite excited about it. And we'll have that prospectus out now at the beginning of October, saying how you can actually sign up. And then lastly, the second part of stage 4 is an advisory offer. So what we also felt was, as well as general training for people on different parts, on different maybe skills deficits that they've got, or they faded, or they got skills fade, new term, skills fade. Watch out, that'll be used a lot this autumn. That as well as those sessions, what services and centres and colleges needed was somebody external to look at what they are doing, looking at what whether they've got an overall policy, whether they've got a quality strategy, whether they've got a safeguarding policy. And that person will be a digital ACE advisor. They will offer you a session of support. It'll be made up of 2 parts, where they'll have a preparatory discussions with you on what you think you need, and then they will deliver a development session on that topic for you and your senior team. We will have it's going to be limited, but we also think it will be useful for some people and for some services who have only got a toe in the water at the moment and need support to go further on it. So all in all, we've got an offer now, a digital ACE program of support that covers guidance materials, it covers training, and it covers advisory support. So all in all, I think we've done quite well to get this up and running this summer. Again, we'll let you know how you can book a digital advisor, and it's a sort of like I said, it's a new activity for us here at HOLEX, because when we had the National Leaders of Governance a few years ago, we used the AOC, we piggybacked on the AOC, but this time we're looking to run this part of it ourselves. So I know there's going to be quite a lot of interest in that, so bear with us till we send out to you the booking arrangements. And then lastly, next steps. Right, so you've done really well, but there are still things I think that DFE and the mayoral combined authorities could provide that would make your life easier, better, take the worry away. So the ones that you've already talked about is that, and I think some of you are quite cross over this, and I think you should be, is they should be providing support for devices, whether that would be, helping you loan out laptops, whether there is, a way that you can find a way to do iPads or restructure, redoing up old iPads and computers. There should be more on devices. Good Things Foundation have had a brilliant scheme, but it's they've had to go to charities to get that organised. And many of you in your own towns and cities have looked to charities to provide you with devices for your students. But they need to, we could be in lockdown again before Christmas, and your students are often the least likely to have some form of of equipment, and if they do have it, they're having to share it with their children, and that doesn't seem to work for them. And it shouldn't work for them as well. I mean, they should be able to have their own space and be able to do their own learning. So we do feel that we need to push more for this. And I also think you need to push in your locality. So if you're in a mayoral combined authority, you know, you should like collectively get together and pen a letter. I know some of the combined authorities have got a grant process set up. Some of them have made it a bit difficult for you to get at any equipment, but I do think that this is something that's not going to go away. And you know, there's many of a school this autumn, academies mainly, but you know, if you walk through the door now as your first year of your GCSE, the first thing they do is make sure that you've got a device and that you know how to use it, so if they're in lockdown again, they can do some decent online learning with their GCSE students. And also we might find ourselves into a position where qualifications and assessment is done online, so it becomes really important that people have got real access. Then linked then to that is connectivity. You know, we've got issues with broadband around the country and Wi-Fi and free Wi-Fi, and what can we do about it? And there must be something that government can do properly for those in education. It shouldn't be, you know, something that every individual has to buy their own data themselves. There must be something around that. We think there should be more on the development of materials, and I think that our project is a good start for that, for the adult education world. But I think there's also a bit more sharing, you know, that we have one set maybe of ESOL materials that you can adapt, one set of level 1 literacy materials. You know, there must be more we can do on the sharing part of the materials. And then I don't know about you, but I'm sort of fed up with the funding system. You know, the guidance is there so that it's supposed to make it really quite easy for you to be able to flex and be able to use it for the type of responsive provision that you need to do. However, some of you seem to have got the hang of it. Some of you may be pushing a bit at the boundaries, but many of you are feeling not that confident. And I'm putting pressure on the SFA to come up with some even clearer advice about how you fund online learning, because I don't think it's appropriate use of your time that you have to, you know, really work your way through some complicated guidance that takes you from one page to another page of the guidance before you can feel that confident that you can fund it in the way that you need to fund it. And then that takes us to performance measures. I mean, last year, DFE/ESFA did well by actually putting aside some of the performance measures. But they haven't really said what they're going to do for 2021 or 21-22. And some of the measures that we've got now are not fit in the post-COVID world. But they're also not fit when we're going to have the numbers of unemployed that we've got coming up, and how you might need to like run much shorter activity or keep the activity going on when the person's gone into employment in much bigger numbers. And that's also about something about you considering your offer. You know, we will have, you know, anything between 2.5 and 3 million unemployed come November. What does that mean in your area? You know, what you need to do and how you're going to support them. Maybe not into jobs immediately, because maybe those jobs are not there, but into something, into a meaningful activity that brings up their skill level, so that when they return to work, you know, when the sort of economy gets into better shape, then there are jobs for them. They're not going in again at low paid and low skilled, that they may be able to get jobs at a slightly higher level. So there's quite a lot in there for next steps, but I am interested in other. I am interested in, you know, looking at what else you want me to tell people and what more you can do yourselves. So we also got the spending review coming up. So in the next 10 days, on your behalf, I'll be putting in another spending review bid. And part of what's on this slide, or expanding what's on this slide, I should say, will be really quite important section of that spending review bid. And that sort of brings me to the end of what I wanted to say about the new programme. This is a sort of short webinar to give you a sort of feel for it, and also a chance that you've got in your mind now that these dates are going to be something that you need to put into your diary. Charlie will send out these slides afterwards. And also you start to be able to think about, which staff you want to go on our training programme when the prospectus comes out, and whether you'd be interested in taking up an offer of having a digital advisor work with you for a session to see where you are on your technological journey. So that's it for me, unless Charlie, you've got any more questions?
No, there's nothing to pass on. No.
Nothing to pass on. So this is, I think, one of those things whereby when you're doing things digitally, because I can't see you, although you can see me, I'm never sure when we do something online, and again, it's all learning, isn't it? Which of the sections you are interested in, and which more that I could expand or contract. As if I was in a classroom or we were at a conference, I'd be able to see that. Anyway, I hope you found that of interesting. I think I've given you 20 minutes of your life back, if some of you thought it was going to go on till 4 o'clock. And as you can, I hope you can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm really quite excited about this project. I think the people who have come forward to be strand leaders, like Sarah, Caroline, Karen and Jackie, have been amazing. Charlie doing the first stage of doing the survey. And I think we've done really well already as a project, and I must say I'm very grateful for UFI coming to us and saying, would we partner them over such an activity? So I hope you gain something for it, and then good feedback styles at the end. About December time we'll get some feedback on how it was for you and what worked well. But other than that, have a good afternoon, and I'll see all of you soon. Bye.